Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Faster, my good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Friday, 21st of June 2024 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes looking at the latest news on the island. Background to that news, we got sport and business and travel updates and the newsmakers in person this evening. Ronaldsway's bottom of the class for delays and cancellations. The latest on that food and drink festival cancellation. And news of the 41st British Irish Council at Mount Murray today. 6 more cocaine suppliers are sent to jail, and a first for Manx disabled tennis players.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
But first of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster my Dave Moore.
Faster my, a further 6 people involved in supplying cocaine to undercover police officers in the Isle of Man have been jailed. It brings the total number sent to prison as a result of Operation Nightjar to 11. Northern Ireland Secretary Chris Heaton-Harris says future British-Irish Council meetings should be attended by the UK Prime Minister. He was speaking at the body's latest summit, which is being held in the Isle of Man today. Ronaldsway Airport's been ranked as the worst in the British Isles for cancellations and delays. The study, carried out by Good Travel Management, found flights on average left the Isle of Man 35 minutes and 6 seconds later than their scheduled departure times. The island also has the highest volume of cancellations across the British Isles, with 5.2% of flights failing to take to the air. A teenager's been jailed for at least 13 years in the UK for what police say was a premeditated attack to murder a 15-year-old. A judge has lifted restrictions on naming killer Bardia Shel Fard, who was 14 when he stabbed Alfie Lewis outside a primary school in Leeds last November. The Conservatives secured under £300,000 in donations during the second week of election campaigning, while Labour picked up £4.3 million. Rishi Sunak urged voters not to sleepwalk into July the 4th, but can't shrug off allegations of betting by Tory candidates. And Northamptonshire's Chief Constable's been sacked for lying about his credentials and exaggerating others. Nick Adderley's apologised to any veterans he's offended. That's the Update News headlines. The next bulletin is at 6.
Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham's guidance on powers of attorney and more. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Karamaya, thank you, Dave. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, there is a strong wind warning in operation, but it will dissipate as the evening goes on. State of sea is slight or moderate and slight overnight. The weather, cloudy with intermittent patchy rain on a fresh south-southwesterly, clearing later through a dry night in a moderate west-northwesterly and down to 11 degrees. For Jasan, dry with sunny spells in a light westerly, turning southerly and picking up to become fresh. Daylight maximum 16 degrees. A cloudy evening with patchy rain overnight, minimum 13. And for Jaduni, cloudy start with coastal mist or fog patches. Then bright spells in a light to moderate west-northwesterly. Top temperature 17 degrees. Tides on the way out, goes down to the bottom at about a half an hour's time, 7 minutes past 6 tonight. Sunsets 5 to 10, high tide midnight, sunrise at 4:45 tomorrow morning, and the morning low tide 29 minutes to 7.
Manx Glass and Glazing don't just do the big jobs. It's easy to repair broken greenhouse glass at Manx Glass and Glazing. For greenhouse glass cut to size, call 674 573.
Ronaldsway Airport has been ranked as the worst in the British Isles for cancellation and delays. That full story, here's Dave Moore back.
The study, carried out by Good Travel Management, found flights on average left the Isle of Man 35 minutes and 6 seconds later than their scheduled departure times. This is despite the island having just 17 destinations for travellers to visit across 5 airlines. In comparison, Heathrow, the UK's busiest airport, experiences delays on average of 25 minutes and 41 seconds, 10 minutes less than Ronaldsway. The Isle of Man also has the highest volume of cancellations across the British Isles, with 5.2% of flights failing to take to the air last year. Since August of 2023, the airport's been closing its runway for 2 morning breaks due to shortages of air traffic controllers, though these are expected to be lifted by autumn. On a positive note, the study reports Ronaldsway has an above average on Google reviews with 4 stars, but points out complaints are not uncommon. It quotes one traveller describing the airport as a joke, landed 60 minutes ago and stuck on a plane because there are no stairs or or staff available for us to disembark. Another passenger claims Ronaldsway is genuinely one of the slowest airports I've used. The report doesn't make good reading for those travelling to the island from Gatwick, with the London airport experiencing an average delay of 33 minutes 37 seconds, the second worst on the list behind the Isle of Man. At the other end of the scale, Southampton is the UK's least disrupted, with delays of 15 minutes 38 seconds, 9 minutes faster than the national average.
NMHK says more clarity around fallen stock charges is needed after the DOI announced increases of up to 185% for the collection of some dead animals. The topic was raised in Tynwald this week. MHK Tim Glover says that led to more questions than answers.
This was sprung out of the blue. There wasn't any consultation. There was consultation with DEFA, but there was no consultation directly with the farmers through the Manx National Farming Union, because they got an email and that was the first they knew about it. So again, I question the way government communicates with parties all round. I think that's been a weakness for several decades probably now. And we also don't know when phase 2 and phase 3 of these increases are going to come in. Phase 1 is an enormous increase for farmers straight away, some of which are over 150% higher than what they're currently paying. And of course, it's a monopoly situation in effect, because they have to use the animal waste plant, because there's no provision to bury stock or burn stock on their land. That is not there currently. I asked the question, were they going to ease those restrictions, and we've got something that they're consulting on. So no, not satisfied, because we don't know how far into this process we are, or indeed how far the process will go.
The only radio station that's Manx, and we're proud of it. Celebrating 60 years. This is Manx Radio.
Cancelling the Food and Drink Festival shows a disconnect between government and local producers, according to a stallholder. Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture says its focus will now be on the Royal and Southern Agricultural shows. Stuart Mead runs Red My Farm near Balaff. He says it's disappointing.
For us personally, it is one of the biggest days in our calendar, not just financially, but there's the other intangible benefits of it as well. You're meeting your direct customers, you're talking to the Manx public who are our key customers, and you're speaking to them directly, not via a retailer or a supplier. So you're getting great intel on your product, what you're doing, what's good, what's bad, what could be improved, what you could change. So there's a huge amount of intangibles associated with this as well, that speaking directly to your end consumer can only deliver. And that's one of the most important aspects of any food and drink festival happening anywhere in the world, is that opportunity to engage directly with your end customer. I think it just demonstrates a real disconnect between the messaging that's coming out about how important the food industry is to the island in terms of tourism, in terms of the economy, how important it is. There seems a huge disconnect between that and cancelling the only main expo event for local producers to market their wares. And I'd just like to understand how this decision has been reached, who was engaged within that process, why it was published so late on in the day, how long it's been going on for, and how long have they actually known that this was going to be the end result, and why it wasn't communicated sooner, why people weren't engaged with it, and why they feel that this alternative strategy is an appropriate replacement.
The British Irish Council held its 41st summit today, hosted by the Isle of Man government, and it discussed a range of political and economic developments across their administrations. Here's Dave Moore.
The summit meeting was chaired by Chief Minister Alfred Cannon, who welcomed several heads of administration attending a British Irish Council summit for the first time. They discussed various ways administrations are developing initiatives to realise the opportunities of renewable energy to stimulate economic growth and support decarbonisation efforts. They also warmly welcomed the return of the Northern Ireland Executive to the BIC table, as well as the restoration of the devolved institutions and a North-South Ministerial Council. They also noted that 2024 marks the 25th anniversary of the British Irish Council following its establishment under the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, and commended its work on promoting positive relations across these islands. They also reflected on a range of developments across their administrations and internationally, and on topics of mutual considerable interest. They also noted that the next British-Irish Council Summit will be hosted by the Scottish Government.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
Pastor Meyer, thanks for joining Manx Radio this evening. The Manxman, motor vessel Manxman, departed Heysham at 17 minutes past 2. She's just on the outskirts of Douglas Bay at the moment. Be on the link span in the next 25 minutes. Castletown Lawn Tennis Club set to host a 2-day open event this weekend, which it believes could be a first for disabled players on the Isle of Man. It'll include some sessions run by an ex-Great Britain player, club coach Neil Ronan.
So we've got 2 days of different things going on our new courts that have been down for a month now. Starting at 10 o'clock on Saturday and running right through till 5. We've got a few different things, including junior tennis, cardio tennis, adults competition, and also some walking tennis for people who have sort of mobility issues. And then on Sunday, similarly, we've got junior coaching in the morning, and then we've got some more walking tennis, and we've got a female-only session, and also a wheelchair exhibition with our guest that we've got coming over, Tony Nappett, who's an ex-GB player and with multiple GB titles, so it's quite an attraction to come over. Tony's very experienced in this side of things. He works for a company called We Do Tennis and also the Lawn Tennis Association, so his experience in this side of things is massive, and previously played for multiple GB titles, so he's very experienced in disability tennis.
Opening up not just to juniors and seniors, but also those who want to get involved in walking tennis and wheelchair tennis as well. How important is that the game remains as inclusive as possible?
So it's something we've been doing for a long time now, is trying to keep that sort of all-inclusive, that anybody can get involved. But this is a first for the Isle of Man, really, certainly through tennis anyway, that we're getting a bit more involvement with sort of different groups, and hopefully we can get some more wheelchair tennis going at the club, and other forms of disability as well, but the wheelchair tennis would be really good. It'd be interesting to see how it pans out and see what we can get involvement we can get from people who do other sports currently, and see if we can get them to transfer over and play a bit of tennis as well.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 18 minutes before 6, in corporate news, Zealand Pharma roared ahead by 25% as an early-stage study showed the Danish company's weight loss drug helped reduce weight by an average of 8.6% after 16 weekly doses. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookhall.com. The Italian government's fined a car company £5 million for allegedly branding vehicles that were made in China as being produced in Italy. DR Automobiles misleadingly marketed cars as being produced in Italy, even though they were mostly made in China, according to the country's competition regulator. The firm said it'll appeal against the fine, as it's never claimed its vehicles were completely made in Italy. Southern Italy-based DR Automobiles assembles low-cost vehicles using components produced by Chinese car makers Chery, BAIC and JAC. The regulator said the cars under the company's DR and Evo brands were sold as being Italian-made, but were largely of Chinese origin, with only minor assembly and finishing work carried out in Italy. The move comes after Italy and the EU as a whole are cracking down on cars produced outside the trading bloc. Last month, dozens of Moroccan-made Fiat Topolinos were seized in the Italian port of Livorno because they had the Italian flag insignia. Fiat's parent company Stellantis said it followed regulations but has since removed the flags from the vehicles.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookhall.
UK and European markets were weaker. Wall Street stocks flat. The dollar was stronger, locking in a third week of gains. Brent oil finished the week on a bullish note, and gold fell over 1% but remained on track for a second consecutive weekly gain. The numbers reported by Ramsey Crookhall. At the close in London, the FTSE 100 down 0.4%, 8,237. The DAX in Frankfurt down 0.4%, 18,182. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial down 0.03%, 39,125. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index similarly down 0.03% at 17,715. In the Midwest in Chicago, the S&P 500 down just over 0.1% at 5,465. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 26.3 cents, €1 18.2 cents, and 22 South African rand 73.2 cents. In commodities, gold's down 1.33% currently, $2,328 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude down 0.05% at $85.61.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookhall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
3:15.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
A further 6 people involved in supplying cocaine to undercover police officers on the Isle of Man have been jailed. It brings the total number of people sent to prison as a result of Operation Nightjar to 11. Detective Chief Inspector Michelle McKillop says the main aim was to disrupt the supply of the Class A drug.
Cocaine is actually probably as prevalent as cannabis, I would say. Cocaine is the go-to social drug. There are people from all walks of life that will use cocaine.
And many of the defendants in this case definitely didn't look like your stereotypical drug dealer or drug user. And actually, for many of them, they had good jobs, they had stable home lives. You know, they were good, productive members of society, bar the fact that they were involved in the supply of Class A drugs.
Yeah, and this really surprised me. I expected a number of individuals I know of, within the drugs fraternity, to be the ones out on the streets dealing, and I was quite surprised at the names that were coming in. The individuals, and like you say, people had families, they've got jobs, and for all intents and purposes, they contribute to society, but they're dealing Class A controlled drugs, which is really dangerous to our society on the whole. And it's not just about, someone's night out, they have a great night, go home, go back to work on the Monday. The effects that cocaine has on individuals when you take it physically, not only that, but then people will steal for it. People will prefer to spend their money on that than other things. There'll be serious assaults, as I said before. The assaults and the prevalence of serious assaults with weapons and drug enforcement has increased on the island. So, people are getting physically injured over this. And there's not many people on the Isle of Man who are making massive amounts of money from this. The people that are making a lot of money are in the UK or further afield. The people here that we would call the bigger fish, if you like, on the island, we're targeting them as well with everything that we can in all the powers we've got to do that.
Manx Radio Sport.
Fast am I, Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I. Good evening. Starting with football, and Peel AFC's Lee Gale and Becky Corkish have scooped the Top Flight Player of the Season awards for the 2023-24 Manx football season. As part of last night's annual Isle of Man FA Awards held at Douglas Golf Club, Gale claimed the Men's Premier League title following a campaign in which he netted 29 times for the Western club, a tally which has also seen him claim the 23-24 Golden Boot accolade. Meanwhile, Corkish captained a Peel women's side to a Women's League and Women's FA Cup double in the last 12 months, scoring 10 times, and was also the captain of the Isle of Man women's national team, which won bronze at the 2023 Ireland Games in Guernsey. Team of the year for 23-24 went to Onken AFC. Last season, the club saw its men's first team promoted back to the top flight, its combination squad win the Combination 2 title, and Onken AFC women reached the final of the Women's FA Cup. You can see the full list of this season's Isle of Man FA Awards winners at manxradio.com. In motorsport, former Ireland resident Harry Payne and TT competitor Kevin Rousseau are returning to FIM Sidecar World Championship action this weekend. The Steinhausen Racing duo are at Most in Czechia for the third stage of the championship, taking place from today until Sunday. The pairing lead the standings after the first 2 rounds on 75 points. Free practice took place this morning, with the team then going second fastest in first qualifying this afternoon, just 0.4 seconds off top spot. This will all be followed by a 10-lap sprint race tomorrow before the 17-lap main race on Sunday. And in cycling, the British National Road Championships continue this evening, with several Isle of Man cyclists expected to be in action. This evening we'll see the circuit races take place in Darlington, with at least 4 Manx competitors due to be involved in the Open. Tyler Hannay, Matthew Bostock, Zachary Walker and Tom Matsoni are due to compete for their respective teams shortly after 8 p.m. In the time trials on Wednesday, Ireland rider Max Walker took silver in the elite men's contest, whilst Hannay finished 12th in the men's under-23 event.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, the 5:30 EasyJet from Liverpool came in some 12 minutes early at 18 minutes past 5. Next is the 7:25 Loganair from Edinburgh on time. 7:40 EasyJet from Gatwick's on time. The 5:08 Loganair from Liverpool returning patient transfer on time. And the 10:09 Loganair from London City is showing on time. Outbound, 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool. The outbound patient transfer is on time. Also, the 6 o'clock EasyJet to Liverpool. The 5 to 7 Loganair to Edinburgh. 10 past 8 EasyJet to London Gatwick showing on time. There is fog on the mountain road, so do take care. And temporary lights at the bottom end of Johnny Watterson's Lane for that new Puffin crossing. East Baldwin Road is closed for culvert replacement work. We got face closures on Ballabooey Road in Peel for water main work. Temporary lights on Ramsey Road, Laxey at the Menorca Hill Junction for 3 separate phases of drainage installation. Phase closure on the Ballakill Ferry Road, Colby, and the Starvey Road too for water main work. Temporary lights at the bottom of the Ballamoda near Silverdale. Hillside Avenue is closed through to Circular Road in Douglas for window replacement, and Switzerland Road's closed for construction work partially till November. Lights on Vicarage Road in Farm Hill at Stevenson Way for that water main replacement. Remember, the parish walk's on tomorrow. A number of road restrictions. Watch out on the A1 from Union Mills to Crosby, the Clanner Road from 9 o'clock, the Orrisdale Road from 9:30, and Derby Road Peel from midday 30.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at
Quayside. The Health Minister has revealed staffing our island's health and social care system, if assisted dying is approved, is of real concern to him. Laurie Hooper was asked for his stance on the proposed legislation as part of this afternoon's Man in Line.
My personal view, I think I've expressed a number of times about the assisted dying bill, and I said this in the House of Keys. The bill is very narrow in its scope. It deals explicitly with terminal illness. There are bills elsewhere in the world that deal with unbearable suffering, and I think from my perspective that's probably what I would land personally. So that's what I was referring to in the conference when I talked about what my view personally is. But again, as I told the House of Keys quite explicitly, I have no intention of trying to amend this bill. Not in that scope. In terms of staffing, I'm actually really concerned, if I'm honest, about staffing levels. So one of the amendments that I have brought to the bill, which is an amendment that has been supported by the BMA, is to make sure that we strengthen the conscientious objection clauses, but also have an opt-in provision. So staff would have to make a positive decision to opt in, because otherwise, that there is that concern that staff might feel pressured, or they might feel that they don't have a choice in terms of this. And I want to make sure it's absolutely explicit that unless they have opted into supporting a service, that they will never be asked to participate in it. And that's an amendment that I have brought to the bill, because it is something that does concern me, actually, about making sure that staff we have are supported in making sure they can exercise their rights and their ability to object to things that they conscientiously don't agree with.
This is the most listened to Isle of Man news source, and Manx Radio's Update is the Isle of Man's most downloaded news podcast.
Volunteers carrying out the restoration of Ramsey Queen's Pier continue to make good progress despite costs rocketing, but the task of repairing the individual bays is becoming harder as the work moves further along. Here's Treasurer of the Queen's Pier Restoration Trust, Graham Curfey.
The cost is just rocketing and rocketing. If I may, when we done Bay, this is before COVID, doing Bay 3, it would have cost us about £24,000 for the steel in that bay. For Bay 7 and 8, I paid for both bays £108,500, so it's gone up to £54,000 per bay, so it's just slightly more than doubled in the last 3 or 4 years. That's just the steel. Well, we had the UK rail inspector over seeing us in March, and we went through all the documents and all the rules and regulations and the rule books, etc. He had a few pointers for us on that, and of course he advised us to have a word with Groudle Glen Railway, but he's been very, very good in the documents, etc, etc. So all we're waiting for now is our drivers and guards to be trained and then certified. Once we've got that and sent off to the UK inspector, he will hopefully then issue us with an operating certificate so we can operate it. Only on the little bit of line that we have ready, of course.
4 siblings are returning to the Isle of Man from Ireland to take on the parish walk in memory of their late father. Accountant Jim MacDonald died last year of progressive supranuclear palsy. Fiona and Ian say they're hoping to complete all 85 miles, and raise money for the charity that helped.
So many fond memories from growing up in the Isle of Man, and actually so many memories linked to the parish walk as well. We went to St Mary's Primary School in Douglas, so that's kind of where my memories start, way back in the mid-80s. One of my primary school teachers in the Isle of Man, a guy called Gordon Vale, he actually won the parish walk back in 1990, and I was a pupil in his class. class. I remember Gordon well as my teacher then, and that was when the parish walk first came into my own consciousness. Come back to Isle of Man not as frequently as I'd like to be honest. We've all got young families here now, so we make it back kind of every couple of years to revisit and reconnect with the island.
For all of us, it's a hugely important thing to be undertaking, to remember Dad, to remember the amazing time we had as a family there, how much he loved it and immersed himself in life there, and how much fun he had. And we'll obviously get a flood of those memories. We're going to be meeting up with family friends, school friends, and sharing memories and keeping Dad top of mind as we're going around. And that's obviously a huge motivating factor for us to complete and to really kind of pay tribute to Dad and to thank everyone for the support that they've given us so far in fundraising for this event. I certainly know as I'm going around, I'll be keeping Dad in my mind. And when Dad's early days, when he got his diagnosis, he said, no one told me this was going to be easy. And I'm going to be keeping that in my mind as we go around.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Dave Moore, producer Amy Griffiths. After the news at 6 o'clock, Rob Pritchard is here with Friday Sport. Greatest Hits with Simon Clark at 6:30. Howie Kane's Sweet and Swing at 9, and Update returns on Monday at 5:30. Make the most of the weather and enjoy your weekend.
WIN